Hey guys, thanks for joining Learn to Play. My name is Lance, and today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Buccaneer Bones. Buccaneer Bones is a dice game that's 1 to 4 players, takes roughly 10 to 15 minutes to play, and basically what you're doing in it is competing with your fellow pirates to move your ships to the islands, to get the buried treasure, and to bring them back to port. The first person that can bring 3 treasures back to port successfully will win the game. So let's head to the table and I'll teach you how to play. Alright, so game setup is real simple. Each player will take the one dashboard, the corresponding first mate and ships. The treasures will go in the middle of the table along with the dice so all players can reach them. Once the player has their dashboard, they'll take the ships that they have with it and put those ships on the ports on the very top. And once they do that, we are ready to start the game. Alright, so I'd like to go over the player dashboard real quick. We have 3 different types of symbols at the bottom of the card. And as your player gets those ships into the islands, they will unlock those abilities only while the ship is in that island. So if you have a ship on 1 or 6, you get an additional dice for each of the islands. So if you have a ship on 6, you'd get 1 additional dice. And if you have both ships, you get 2 additional dice. You'd roll 6 dice. If you have ships on 2 or 5, you get to change the dice, 1 dice that you roll by a value of 1. So if you rolled a 2, you could change it to a 1 or a 3. And then if you control either of the middle islands or both of them, you get an additional reroll or 2 additional rerolls during your turn. Alright, so I'd also like to go over the first mate here real quick. So at any time if you have a roll that you are not able to do anything with at the end of your turn, so like for example if we rolled this, we would be allowed to use our first mate, and he has a couple of different uses. We can use him as a scout, and if we do, then we can put him anywhere on our dashboard and benefit from that symbol during our next turn. So we could get an additional dice or change the results or get an additional reroll. If any of our opponents have treasure, as long as it's not less than the treasure we have, we may try to steal it by putting our first mate on their treasure. And during our next turn, if we roll 3 of a kind of any number, we would steal their treasure. And then if by chance, if an opponent had placed their first mate on one of our treasures, and we happen to roll terribly and get to use our first mate, we can decide to knock their first mate off of our treasure and play our first mate as a defender. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the player turn. So during your turn, you'll take your 4 dice and give them a roll, and you're looking to try to get 2 of a kind or 3 of a kind. If you get 2 of a kind, you're allowed to move the ship of the corresponding row down 1 space. If you get 3 of a kind, you can move them all the way to the islands, or if they're already on the islands, you have to have 3 of a kind, and then you can move them back. And if you do that, then you would gain a treasure. After our initial roll, we can keep any dice that we want and re-roll any dice that we don't want up to 1 time, unless we have those corresponding rows. So we did get 3 of a kind of 2, so we can move him all the way down to the islands, and during our next turn we'll be able to change 1 dice result plus or minus 1. Alright, so the last thing we're going to look at is the end of the game. So when the first player receives 3 treasures, that will signal the end of the game. All of the players will get their final turn so that everybody has had an equal number of turns. After that, if there's only 1 player that has 3 treasures, then that player is the winner. Otherwise, if there's a tie, then you would have to total up sailing points. You'll get 3 points for each ship that's on an island, 1 point for each ship that's at sea, and no points for any ships that are on the port. And whoever has the most sailing points will win the game.